Justin, it's a new year. We're in 2025, and I imagine there will be a number of companies which are looking to sell, and maybe some other companies which are looking to merge or buy a business. And we really didn't talk about this last year, but I think it's important if for our audience to kind of talk through high level the various stages of a buy sell transaction. In other words, if someone's looking to buy a business or sell a business, what are some of those stages so that people know what they're getting themselves into if they find themselves in either side of the equation?
Sure. The first step is usually there'll be a little bit of an awkward meeting. Then they may decide on an NDA, right? So that they've got some confidentiality. But you'll usually then go towards discussions about, like, would this make sense for us to do some sort of deal, or how would it work? Deals are acquisitions, some are joint ventures, that sort of thing. Then most often they'll enter into a term sheet, something to just get the big mileposts. What is the purpose? Who's going to do what? And what's left to negotiate? Then at that stage, if you get that far, then the parties will start doing diligence on each other. So they'll if it's an acquisition, the buyer is going to send over a list of questions that is really invasive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start going through and making sure that everything in your company is cleaned up. And they're going to ask questions about everything. And anything that pops up will have to be resolved. And sometimes you're doing diligence before you've got your paperwork, and sometimes afterwards. Let's say that they're doing some diligence beforehand. They might have some as they go forward. Where this becomes really painful is that a lot of companies wait until that diligence phase to clean everything up in their company. And so you have this outward, oh yeah, no, everything's fine. Here, we'll send you all the information. And then on the other side, they're like, what? We don't have any corporate documents. I guess we need to create corporate documents. And so it becomes this just crazy exercise of creating, I mean, and not in a bad sense, it's just all the things that had never been done. I mean, oh, we need an employee handbook. I guess we're doing an employee handbook, and all these things to satisfy diligence. And that's a very stressful way to go. And sometimes you can't get the deal done because you can't get those things done fast enough. So, and I've kind of veered off of your question, but a better way to approach that is, okay, clean up your company, then start talking to people, then do diligence, once you got a term sheet or whatever it is. And then at that stage, you clean up the rest of the stuff, as opposed to trying to do everything while you're trying to sell the company.
But let's say the due diligence period, let's say passes muster and the buyer is satisfied with what they've seen. What would be the next stage after that?
Right. So you would enter into your definitive agreement. So let's say it's an asset purchase agreement. Then usually what will happen is you sign your agreement. A lot of times for a smaller deal, it's going to be simultaneous sign and close. And so you'll just complete your deal. Sometimes there will be issues that get pushed after close, like something that can't be fixed before, but the parties decide it's okay to go forward. And then there will be some things you have to do after closing. And then in more complicated deals, you might assign and then have a period before you close. And that's where everything gets fixed. But for smaller ones, a lot of times it's a simultaneous, like you sign and close.
From beginning to end, I know this is tough to give a estimate because every deal is different, but do you have like a timeline roughly on what you've seen from beginning to closing in terms of the stages of a transaction?
Not really. I mean, it can be done in a few months, but the reality is it just depends on how motivated everybody is. And a lot of times the first deal that comes through isn't the one that closes. So it might be the second or third even try. But it really depends. I have seen somewhere that were very clean, and it just happened. Like we did one end of last year where it was fast, and it was the other side was a very big company, but they weren't buying the whole company. They were buying a particular asset, particular IP asset. And it happened really fast, and they basically pushed everything to after close. So it can happen fast, but typically it's a fairly big lift.